All right. I would say good morning from sunny Southern California, but it's also sunny over there in Hawaii where you are, isn't it, David?
Honolulu, Honolulu, baby.
Wow. Listen, we have a lot to talk about. I'm going to just get right down to business. You are on a family
Wait.
vacation.
I just got to do it once. I mean, I put on the shirt so you get the idea, but I got to do this once. Just look at that.
Oh, yeah. You're going to just make everybody
Okay,
upset. That's all.
there you go.
You're
Now
going to
that
make
everybody's
everybody
upset,
jealous.
let's now that everybody's upset, let's talk about what we need to talk about.
It looks beautiful. I'm going to take my family to Hawaii one day. I've never been to Hawaii myself, ever. And we have a massive listening audience in Hawaii. Matter of fact, on the radio, one of our largest radio audiences is in the beautiful state of Hawaii, the great state of Hawaii. So we're gonna have to do that. By the way, little side note, your connection is actually getting better, not worse. So praise God for you switching over the way you just did. Okay.
Well, can I make it?
I
want to make one more side note before we go over to the Middle East. I want to do something here.
Okay.
Okay. And
Yes, sir.
there is last time I was at Pearl Harbor. We were out here a while ago in Pearl Harbor, and I went to see the USS. I think it's the Arizona. That's kind of half sunk
Yes, sir.
in Pearl
The
Harbor.
Arizona. Yep.
And there is, and I was very touched to see it, a quote from the book of Isaiah in Hebrew on the plaque inside the memorial of the USS Arizona. I don't know if people know that. I don't know if you've been here and noticed it, but I just want to kind of stress that since it is connected to where we are here. Though I will tell you something else. It's so beautiful out here. I don't know if I've told anybody, but my dad worked for TWA when I was a kid. So I came out to Hawaii all the way from Israel twice. And Hawaii was the only place in the world where he came out here for a vacation. We came out here for a vacation. We had free flights, so it wasn't a big issue. And he went after a week in Hawaii to the TWA office in Hawaii and said, "Do they have any open positions?" Meaning Hawaii was the only place in the world my dad was willing to leave Israel for. And
That's hilarious.
now it probably would have
I
never
did not know
happened.
that.
It probably would have never happened. But what I'm trying to say, it is really, really beautiful. Though I think, and maybe this is part of what we need to talk about. I'm talking to people here in Hawaii on the ground, and I'm going to be at a Calvary Chapel conference from tomorrow. But I'm starting to pick up. People are saying that Hawaii has changed. That the rot that is seeping into American culture has also reached out to this little paradise in Hawaii, and it's pretty bad.
Yeah. Bro, let's get down to business. There's a lot of elephants in the room.
Okay.
There's a lot that we got to talk about that I like right now. Things are changing so dramatically. I remember a lot of people, even some of my colleagues, saying this MOU is going to last perpetually. The way it's designed is it can be renewed automatically, and Iran is going to be able to manipulate and drive and change. And I want everybody to understand, this is like critical. Everybody needs to know this. Yesterday, the MOU expired. Not only did it expire, but it expired with the president saying he has no interest in renewing it. Meaning, he is in a different mindset right now. He's in a different mode. And the mode that he is in is, I am going to seek to fix this now. My guess is he's taking the pre-midterm approach. I don't know for sure. He still remains extremely quiet about a lot of what's happening right now. The markets are dumping pretty fast. That's for sure.
Well, I saw gas price went up kind of a little bit.
Yeah,
More than a little bit.
It's definitely something that is it's extraordinary what's happening. The dynamic is unique. It's definitely a unique dynamic.
Okay,
So
do we need to back up and tell people what the MOU was and is or isn't or whatever?
yeah, we should talk about that. Why don't you go ahead and talk about that for a second, because it is an important detail.
Well, I
Like,
think
it's something
14
that just
points.
can't be ignored.
James, how much? 14 points on the original MOU that we were talking about?
Yes.
And there,
Well, 14 of real significance. Yes, that's correct.
and here's the thing. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to mark a couple of them. Basically, ceasefire. We don't shoot at each other, which has been broken numerous times by the Iranians. Second, that Strait of Hormuz will be open. That was the second thing. The third is that the United States will start how do you say unfreezing Iranian assets and letting money drain in. The Iranians, the first one, I remember the first one of the MOU, which might connect to what we're talking about today. Remind me to talk about the Iranian officers underground in Lebanon. Oof, that's an interesting one. But the first one was that Israel will stop opposing the Hezbollah in Lebanon, meaning tying the situation in Lebanon to the situation in the Persian Gulf. That was the main issue. So that, in a nutshell, that was the main assets. And that America would pay retribution to the Iranians for all of the assets that they had lost.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So that agreement has died yesterday. So now we're without an agreement with Iran. Okay. That means what is the situation with Iran right now?
Okay. Where do you want to start on this one, or do you want me to start on this one? Because
No,
there's
I want you to start on this one.
okay. So where we stand right now, I think the wagons are circling. I think the IRGC is being targeted in a way that it's never been targeted before. I think the president has signaled now to the international community that he is ready to do whatever it takes to basically take complete and total control of the Strait of Hormuz. I think the strait is going to probably stand under contention for a little while, under the auspice that it may be taken under possession by the United States of America. Whether or not that's actually going to happen is a whole other story. And I think that what we are actually seeing is we are seeing what may be the beginning of the IRGC anticipating a ground invasion. Now, there's a lot more to say. There's a lot more to say as far as all of that's concerned. In the midst of it, we have an Israeli political situation that is beginning to mobilize more for Bibi Netanyahu, especially because the people that are trying to sabotage him are actually helping him. And things on the United States front are getting so ridiculous that people are beginning to see through it. Like, here's one that's really interesting. Tucker Carlson just went out and told everybody that if you go to a school in Israel, you will not see a plus sign in addition because it resembles a cross and they don't want crosses. That I've never heard anything that crazy before. I've never heard anybody say something like that.
You want to ask? Because this is going to be weird.
Ready? Yeah, talk
He's
to
right.
me.
He's right.
What?
Yep, he is right. I mean, I grew up in the education in
I'm
Israel.
just shocked. So why is there no plus sign?
Well, let's start off with what there is. Okay, you don't make a cross like this. You make a plus like this, meaning bottom line and top line. So
what's the real story? Because Tucker's lying about something, right?
Tucker is saying is because Jews don't like to make crosses on their notebooks, and that was what I heard in third grade in Israel. Same thing.
So that's true.
That is, that is true. Now, again, you get to high school and you get a little bit higher, then it kind of seeps out. But I remember way back in the early 80s when I was going to school, or early 70s, mid 70s when I was going to school. That was the reason that we don't make a plus sign. I remember laughing about it.
Okay. Well,
wait a minute.
I'm a little dumbfounded on that one.
But let me go through this one, okay? And let me see if I can explain something, because a lot of people don't really know how to put this in context.
Yeah, how does that get nuanced? I'm sorry, but
no, it doesn't get nuanced. No, I'm not nuancing it. I'm saying something else. The Jews have had a bad relationship with Christianity down the ages. Okay. My grandfather, may he rest in peace, would spit on the ground every time the name Jesus Christ was mentioned. He was a Polish Jew, and that was part of, I'm going to say, Jewish tradition. I'm going to add on to the fact that a lot of people don't know that in Israel we don't call him Yeshua. We name Jesus something else. Okay, the name in Israel is Yeshu, which is an abbreviation of Yimach Shmo V'Zichro, which means may his name be forgotten. Jews relate to Jesus the way people relate to something bad. And I'm making it dramatic like this again before we get into the politics. We can do all that later, but because I need Christians to understand that Jews have been hurt historically, deeply, generationally by people using the name of Jesus in vain. And if you want to understand anything about the Jewish people, and again, I've been talking to people who want to evangelize in Israel, you need to understand that. And Tucker is plugging into that like everything else. Um, we need
I
to
think we
be
can go.
able.
I think we could go deeper with that, but I'm gonna explain in a second. But this is
Okay.
very eye opening for me because I did not know that that was the case. That's kind of wild. I understand it. I understand it, but that's wild. I want to track with you on something if you can indulge me. But
Okay. So
please
so let me
finish.
let me let me add on a layer to this. Growing up in school, I remember my main problem because I was a Christian growing up in Israel. Okay, that's the way I grew up. Because very quickly the neighborhood found out I was Christian. I remember we didn't make a big thing about it because, again, there's a bad rep for Christianity in Israel. But one of the neighbors found out we were believers. We were Christian. We don't call ourselves Christians, by the way. We call ourselves believers. One of the neighbors found out, printed out notes that said that the Goldbergs, that's what I was called back then, is a Christian, and they've come here to turn your children into Christians. They're doing missionary work, and they printed these and put them in mailboxes all along the main road in our neighborhood. And I got dirty looks from the kids in school the next day. Okay, because everybody thought I was trying to turn young Jews into Christians. And I know for a lot of Christians it's hard to hear, but Jews have a problem, especially with Jewish believers, with Messianic Jewish believers. Jews do not have a problem with Christians, but they have a problem with Messianic believers. But on the whole, Christianity does not have a good reputation among the Jewish people. And that was back in the 60s, 70s, 80s as I was growing up.
Okay, so indulge me with this. Okay,
Hmm.
just because I want to I just want to get your perspective on this. Historically speaking, how do you reconcile the issue of a plus sign in Israel refusing to be used because of the association with Christianity? Like how
Oh,
do
wait a
you
minute.
reconcile that? I mean, how does that get nuanced fairly? And is it an accurate picture to say that it's because of Christianity that they don't do plus signs?
Okay, it's a tradition that came from Eastern Europe. Okay, it wasn't Israeli government. It isn't Israeli policy per se.
Understood. I would assume it would have come from Eastern Europe. That would be
Yeah,
my assumption. That
and
would be
think
my
about
general
how people
assumption.
think about how people grew up in Eastern Europe. Think about what happened in Eastern Europe. I mean, it was the persecution, okay,
It
of
was
the Jews by the
insane.
Christians was crazy. So when I'm going to say that when young Jewish kids are growing up, they would be somebody down in 100 years ago said, "Why are we making little crosses?" And then somebody else said, "Oh, we don't need to make a cross. We can do only half a cross." And that way we don't have to make crosses on our this because we don't like Christians and we don't like Christianity. And that was probably something that came from, I'm going to say, Eastern Europe traditions. By the way, there are other traditions, okay? There are other anti-Christian traditions. I don't know if you know, but traditionally, according to most Jewish traditions, a Jew should not go into a church, a public church. And
Okay.
I had know many Jews that would not go into the church. I know friends of mine who would not come into the kihila, the congregation where we were, okay, because it was considered a church. Even though they were open, it became a Jewish tradition that was a reaction to the horrific, terrible, crazy, unbiblical, unspiritual, unchristian like, unJesus like persecution of the Jews. And this is part of the retaliations of the Jews against us. Now, that is the dynamic. I want to go into why is Tucker pulling this out of the bag right now.
Yeah, I um so okay, I do want to get into that in just a second. I know the story behind the Red Cross. That's something that has been deeply nuanced. I understand why that happened. That has a lot more to do with Islam and more about the ability of Israel to serve people medically within any context. It would there's a whole interesting. I went down a whole rabbit trail learning about that. You know what happened with there, but this one is very interesting. I'm very shocked. Like I'm kind of. Was this?
Well,
Can I
okay.
ask you this question? Was it just in general in mathematics in general that was the case that it was not utilized? Like, is it still that way in higher education? Is it?
Oh
I'm
no,
I'm,
no,
I'm really
no, no,
interested.
and it's probably faded into like old traditions, okay, old family traditions. I mean, this would be akin
Okay,
to
so this
I
isn't
don't
mainstream. This is not a mainstream thing.
know. No, it is mainstream, and it is. I'm going to say all Jews have done this. I mean, I grew up in the education system, and I wouldn't be surprised. I could check it out. I wouldn't be surprised if there are people who still do that.
Okay, so can I just share my thoughts on this?
What do you want to add on another level?
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
the Jews needed way back from the beginning a way to push back against Christianity. I don't know if you know, but originally, uh, Christianity, the disciples and their teachings was considered another kind of Judaism, and the Romans for many years considered Christianity another version of Judaism or another kind of sect of Judaism. And at some point, so many Jews were being saved, okay, and accepting this new sacrifice system that the Jews put into their traditions and into their prayers, even in the synagogue. Tfilat Shmona, the prayer of the 18 passages, okay, which is a basic aspect of the daily prayer in the synagogue every day, not even every Saturday, every day, got another one, another prayer, a 19th prayer, even though it's still called the 18 prayers, that is actually designated to the Jewish believers in Jesus. Let they not be blessed and let they not be accepted in many different ways. So what I'm trying to say is there is inside Judaism and a Jewish tradition a knee-jerk anti-Christianity that I've grown up with all my life. Kids would ask me, "We now have a Jewish state, and the Christians have persecuted us and done terrible things to us all down through history. Why do we need Christians here?" And I really had a hard time explaining who and what we basically
Yeah,
are.
because they don't know. They've been misrepresented. Christianity has done some pretty evil things have been done in the name of Christianity over the years, especially with Jews. So I certainly would understand.
Well, I'll
I
give
would
you a
certainly understand
classical.
the perception.
30,000 Jews were slaughtered by the Crusaders in Jerusalem when the Crusaders, how do you say, conquered Jerusalem or free Jerusalem from Muslim control. And there was a
Yeah,
small Jewish population in there, and they slaughtered the Jews living in Jerusalem. I mean, we don't forget things like that. This is part of our a part of our history. So
yeah. I
you
mean,
have that in there.
and I know the story of the International Red Cross. Like that's been a discussion that's been had multiple times. You know, in the 1860s, I think is when it was created, and that flag was supposed to be, or that symbol was supposed to be a reversal of the Swiss flag. And
Yep.
the whole idea behind it was to create the picture of neutrality.
Yep.
But the shape is very much similar to a shorter Christian cross, and the perception can't be separated from history. I mean, like for many Jews, many communities, the cross was definitely associated not with Jesus, but with crusaders, all these forced conversions that were happening, the Inquisitions, all of the expulsions that were taking place. I mean, they had to have been thinking of things like 1492. I mean, all kinds of other things. And all the persecution that came out and all of these Christian banners that they carried while they were persecuting them. So I get it, and I also know that recognizably they chose to use a symbol of their national identity. When you think of David Adom, the ambulance service, is it the ambulance service? What is it, David?
Yeah, Magen
David,
David
David,
Adom.
yeah,
The
yeah, Magen David
the
Adom.
red
Yeah,
Magen David, the red
yeah, yeah,
shield of David.
yeah, yeah. So those guys, well, they've always used the Star of David because it actually is more of a sign of neutrality to Muslims and Jews than the cross ever would be. So I understand the practicality of it. You have somebody who's getting injured. You have an ambulance that shows up with the symbol of the Crusaders. That's probably not going to work out very well. Like, I can get that. I totally understand that mindset. But I think the bigger issue to nuance, the more critical issue to nuance, centers around the fact that why are we surprised? The Bible told us that in the last days we would see this happen. The Bible also told us that this is even Romans chapter 11, that the Jews will continue to reject the Messiah because they have a spiritual blindness. And that blindness won't be lifted from their eyes until we're raptured.
I need to do something, James.
You can't
but I need to
penalize
do
them for the blindness that the declaration says is happening here.
Again, I'll take the biblical, but I want to give you a point of view of a Jew. Okay, my personal and my historical and my religious background. And you have to understand that because the Jews are carrying the promise of God, they have been targeted down through the ages. I'm not talking just in the book of Esther. I'm not talking just in the book of Exodus. I'm talking down through the ages. The Inquisition was created to root out Jews who were practicing their religion. The hatred of the Jews, and one of these days we got to go a full-fledged anti-Semitism kind of version because there's a lot of it coming on. But look at this, and I think I heard somebody say the other day, the anti-Semitism against the Jews is stronger in the Christian world than anywhere else. There's more anti-Semitism in the Christian world than there is in the. I mean, Hindus are not as anti-Semitic down through the history. Hinduism has not been. The different Asian religions have not been anti-Semitic. The only time the Asian nations have become anti-Semitic is in cases like Indonesia or other Asian nations that became, even in somewhere in some parts of Philippines, where Islam has taken root. Then you're seeing Jewish anti-Semitism. But on the whole, Asians have not been anti-Semitic. Christians have been anti-Semitic, and there's a whole deep discussion about why the people who were grafted in have a knee-jerk reaction against the trunk that they were grafted into. And again, Paul talks about it. He says to the Gentiles, don't be prideful because you're grafted into the root and you're partaking of the fat of the root. But that was a problem even back then. So Christianity had a thing against the Jews way back. And Jews know that and felt it and reacted to that. And you can understand. I mean, watch Fiddler on the Roof, which is a good example of what my family went through, in Eastern Europe. And you can understand why this is a problem. For those of you who love the Jews and want the Jews to understand the amazingness of the salvation that Jesus brought us from within the Jewish nation, you have to understand, though, the hurt and the pain and the anguish and the downright death that has been perpetrated on the Jews in many cases in the name of Christianity. And that is something that I believe that we as Christians, and again, I'm a weird kind of connection, have to live up to and have to understand. Jews have Christian PTSD, and the plus sign is part of that. Again, that's the truth. Now the question is, why is Tucker plugging into it? And that's a whole different dynamic.
Well, Tucker's looking for anything that he can to destroy the Jewish people.
Yeah.
He's looking for anything that he can to hurt Israel, to defame their position. He's using it as a tool to manipulate what he wants to manipulate, and we just know that. He just, I think he's beyond the point of knowing better. I think he actually knows better. Okay? By the way, we're getting a wire incoming that basically says that Israel has struck Syria. I don't know what the details are on this. I'm just getting word on this right now.
I can give you that. I can give you that.
The IRGC has just launched an attack on the UAE.
That we got.
And there are some now elements from the war that are reaching over to Iraq. And I don't know what the story on the Iraq side is.
Okay.
I think the first two are more of the same. I think the first two are more of the same.
Before we change subjects, I'm seeing some people actually bringing something up on the feed here that I think is interesting, and I want to touch this before we go too far. And you've heard me talk probably on this channel and on others about what I call soft anti-Semitism. And part of the reason that a lot of the churches have become an issue is that when you teach the gospel and you teach only the New Testament without the Old Testament, and you teach the gospel as the Jews are the problem and not the grafted in, the trunk that is getting grafted into, when you stress that year after year after year from your pulpit and in your churches, then you create an environment where Christians do look for things like this that are anti-Jewish. Now, switch places and think about this, okay? The Jews understand why Muslims hate us. The Jews understand why the progressive, left, communist, trans-loving, gender-affirming hate us. We can understand that. We are an affront to that. But now we're seeing people like Tucker who are hating us again in the name of Christianity, in the name of Jesus. And
I think Tucker's using Jesus as just his tool to manipulate people. I'm not even convinced that man has a walk with God.
Well, but here's the thing. From the Jewish point of view, here we go again. They're blaming us for everything. They're blaming us for this. And I actually have friends in Israel who are saying, wait a minute, now the Christians are going against us again. Literally, those are the words. Now the Christians are coming against us again. I thought we were over this. I said, well, no, he's not. He said, well, look at Tucker. Look at listen to Kaddis, by the way. Have you followed some of the things that Kaddis has been spurting?
Oh, yeah. She's
comes
evil.
up. Yes, but you can say that. I can say that. What do you think it looks like from a Jew who hears Kaddis, who is considered and is publicly a Christian, spewing Israel? Jews have their tentacles on the world. The Jews are the evil. They are the vermin. They are the germ that is going to desecrate the world. That kind of talk from a Christian gives the Jews an anti-Christianity dynamic, because she's saying, I'm Christian. This is coming from my Christianity. And people need to understand that that is what it is from the point of view of the Jews. And I want to end this little rant with one thing. When you come to my people and talk about Jesus, you have to understand that that is the backdrop. Please.
It's heavy. Please, it's so heavy.
And my people need the gospel shared with them. But when and again, when a Christian comes and says, Jesus loves you, the Jewish reaction automatically is saying, wait a minute, this is the Jesus from the Inquisition. This is the Jesus from the pogroms. This is the Jesus. I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? This is this.
Absolutely.
And this is what we're dealing with. Now, again, so they don't make a plus sign because it looks like a cross. Fine. Okay. Now talk to me why Tucker is using that now in this constellation to actually buy into something else. And that, I think, is the problem, because now Christianity is being used against the Jews again. And again, do we need to talk about, did you hear the thing about the coffee shop in downtown Jerusalem?
No, this is a new thing. Ben Yehuda? In Ben Yehuda?
Hillel Street, right next to Ben Yehuda.
No, I didn't hear anything.
So So somebody opened a coffee shop, and down in town, in the middle of downtown Jerusalem. It's on Hillel Street. Now, uh, the Orthodox got wind of it and started demonstrating in front of the coffee shop. Now, everybody thought it was because the coffee shop is open on the Saturday, and businesses close on Saturday. The thing is that it was kind of weird to me because Hillel Street has an aroma that's open on Saturday, and it has other businesses that are open on Saturday, and the Orthodox leave it alone. I couldn't figure out until it turned out that the coffee shop was funded and put together and used as a publicity aspect for an organization called Jews for Jesus.
Oh, we know who Jews for Jesus is. Wow.
So
That's
so
interesting.
so the more liberal aspect of Israelis were coming to demonstrate against the religious. They're saying we need coffee shops open on Saturday. So the progressive Israel, the left wing Israel, was standing in front of the Orthodox Jews in front of this coffee shop in an alley in Ben Yehuda Street and fighting back. But then somebody spread out that it was being funded by Jews for Jesus, and Jews for Jesus is saying that people that come to drink coffee, we get to spread the gospel and share Jesus with them, and
Oh,
that
that's a
made the
bad, yeah.
support. That made the support get turned away. And again, this is a very nuanced issue. People who work with Jews or work in Israel have to understand this nuance, and I'm dealing with it a lot in all kind of different situations. But that I don't know how we kind of ranted off on this one without the rest. But I think it's important for people to understand the separate the problem with Jews. Now, to put this in connection, my friends know I'm a believer. My soldiers, my officers, my crews, they know. And we had a conversation about it last time I was there. There's less opposition to Christianity than there was before. But let's open up another can of worms. And I don't know if you know, but it is illegal to be a Christian in the UAE. It is
Yeah, that
illegal
I
to
do
be a
know that. Yeah.
Christian in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So when Tucker comes and says that, no, I mean, Christians are in a much better place in Israel.
Yeah,
Are Christian?
he's actually lying. You can be a Christian in the UAE or Saudi Arabia if you came from a Christian family and you've always been a Christian family, then they kind of treat it the same way they do in Egypt. It's very nuanced, but you're still treated like garbage. And the other way that they allow you to be a Christian is if you're a foreign national, like an American, and you want to go to a Christian church, which those are the only churches that exist in Saudi Arabia and the UAE. But if you're a Muslim and you convert, you're not only breaking the law, they'll kill you.
So Tucker came and said there's more churches in Doha than there are in Israel,
Yeah, he's
and I
such
don't
a
know if that's
liar.
true. I don't know if that's
He's a
true, but all
liar.
the churches in Doha are not for people that live
They
there.
don't
It's
count.
for it's for the Indian and Pakistani workers that
It's for
are
the
the
yeah, it's for the slaves that they
exactly.
that they own basically. It's like Tucker is a liar. He's a liar. He's a liar.
Yeah, but he uses these truths just like we started off today. And here is a thing: the enemy uses truth. James, this is a classic example of what the snake did in the garden. He's going to take a little bit of the truth and twist it and use it against God.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big problem. I'm telling you, it's a really really big problem, and it feels like it's an uphill battle that we're fighting here. It continues to be an uphill battle, and I think it's a dark place to actually be. I really do. I will tell you, shameless plug, because I don't have a problem saying this. This is why ministries like the one your brother has are exceptionally valuable in Israel. And because I see this kind of thing happening all the time. I see someone saying, "Oh, I'm a Christian. I'm going to go start a church in Jerusalem." You don't know what you're doing. You don't like you. It's not. It doesn't work that way. It's
So
people don't get that. So I understand that.
can I give another shameless plug?
Sure.
Gijón
Yeah,
Springs.
of course, of course,
Jeff
of course. It
Johnson
goes
and
without
Karen
saying.
Johnson, who's literally in the room next to me here, actually, and what we're doing here, including what we're doing here in Hawaii, is actually pushing for working in Israel in the correct manner. And when I was in Israel last time, and we did a retreat for widows from the war, and I got up at the end of the retreat to explain why Gijón Springs is supporting and praying for widows to have an amazing weekend retreat in a beautiful hotel with massages and rooms and everything. And they said, "Why are you Jews doing this from America?" And I said, "We're not Jewish, we're Christian." And then I got to explain what a Messianic Jew was to these 40 women. That is the way to share the gospel in Israel
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a
with
big deal.
love. And people ask me, how do you talk to Jews? And how do I say, you got to bring the love of Jesus Christ, because the hatred in the name of Jesus Christ is what most Jews have encountered, including this with Tucker. So
Yep.
you need to bring the love of Jesus to a Jew first and foremost. Bring the love, then talk about where the love comes from. And that's what I think is critical for people to understand. And just, I went on a little rant here. Sorry.
I don't know if it was a rant. I think it's just a very needed clarification. I think all of this stuff has to get nuanced, and I think it's important. And I appreciate the nuancing that's happening right now, because there's a lot of facts about this that most people just don't know. They don't understand. And I think oftentimes it gets ignored on a pretty regular basis. And like that fact about the plus signs, I didn't know that. I knew the Red Cross thing. That was an easy one to figure out. The plus sign it's kind of interesting. I just no idea. I didn't even know. But it again, I'm not justifying the position by any stretch of the imagination, but I am saying I understand it. Why would you, like, think about it like this. Here this is an interesting perspective. The early church very likely would not walk around with the symbol of a cross around their neck. And
Oh,
the
no.
reason why they wouldn't wear a symbol of a cross around their neck is because it'd be the modern day equivalent of putting a symbol like a gun on your necklace. It's a symbol of death. It's not a symbol of power or victory or resurrection. So again, it's funny how these things get picked up differently,
Well, you what?
and
I'll add, James, let me add this one. Okay. Again, I'm a tour guide, connect to archaeology. Do you know there's an argument whether Jesus was actually crucified on the cross, what we call a Latin cross,
or the
or
T.
on a
Yeah.
or on a T?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I know.
even the cross that we're using, okay, might not be the actual symbol. And again, I understand the symbolism and everything, but turn that T upside down, and that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think that's fascinating. And again, I'm hearing some. I'm looking at some of the reactions on the account of the well, I got a brain. Okay, I'm seeing some of the comments, and what I'm trying to say is this: please, 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 my people need Christ as much, or I'm not objective, or more than other people.
Yeah.
Again, Paul said it very clear. We as Christians, and I'm talking to my Christian side right now, are grafted into this. We're grafted into this people. And again, I've been reading your book on Revelation. Do you have it there? Reading
Yes.
your book, that book on Revelation, and the Jews are mentioned in end times again and again and again. It's there. Without the Jews, there's no end time prophecies the way we see it. Now,
But by
don't
the
get me
way,
wrong.
I'm going to have you continue the thought, but a lot of people don't understand what you were talking about when you turned the T upside down. Can you explain the Yod? And I assume that's what you're talking about. Yod, which is the first letter in Yeshua. Am I correct? Is that what you were implying
No, no, I was
with the
implying that
upside
the
down T?
cross. No, the cross. No, the upside down tree is a plus sign that we do use in school.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought you were making the symbol of. I thought you were making the symbol of
No,
Yod, which it was the beginning of Yeshua. That's why. See, I'm reading too much into it symbolically. You're talking about the. Okay, all right. Sorry. Well, good. I guess I needed
so
the clarification as well.
So the argument the archaeologist has is that normal Roman crucifixion was not on a T, but the crucified person carried the cross beam.
Yeah.
There were poles that were stuck in the ground in certain places, and they would connect the person to the cross beam and then put the cross beam on the top of the vertical pole. So the cross would have been more of a T than it would have been a Roman or Latin cross, is what we call it today. Again, I'm talking about the symbolism, but again, what I'm trying to say is this: my people have been hurt over the generations. Please understand and please bring them the right Christ, bring them the right Jesus, not the wrong one.
Yeah. Amen to that. Amen to that. Yeah, there is so much to be said about where all of this is and what it means, and you can see the demonic attacks
Yeah.
involved in the mischaracterization of what the real facts are. It's just wild to me. It's just absolutely wild. Okay, so let's switch gears and let's talk about what's happening in the Persian Gulf. Where do you
Oof,
want to start
yeah.
with this, bro? There's a lot to say.
Start with okay. The hinge is United States and Iran, Strait of Hormuz, Persian Gulf. That's the main aspect. I think all the rest of the aspects that we're going to talk about are, I'm going to say, satellite issues on this main issue. And the main issue is radical Islam, crazy Islam being a counterbalance to Western civilization in the Middle East. And as a result of that, the clash had happened between Iran and the United States. It started off between Iran and Israel, but it really grew up to the Iran and the United States. And until that is, I'm going to say, finished, then there's going to be tension in all the other areas, including Lebanon, including Syria, including Gaza. There are things that have happened on all of those fronts in the last week, and we can talk about that.
Okay, where do we want to start? Because I wherever you pick, I got a lot to say. Uh, should we talk
Syria is a
about?
new one. We've talked about Gaza. Nothing really has
Okay,
changed
let's do
about
it. Let's
Gaza.
talk about Syria. Let's talk about Syria.
Let's talk about Syria.
Okay,
Background.
so go. Yeah, go ahead. There's a lot here. There's a lot. By the way, I know whatever background you're going to go over. I would like you to nuance it, please, with Turkey and with what we're seeing with Al Julani. I'm like that's a very critical point here, especially considering what just happened with Russia in Syria last week. Okay, so those are all kind of important. So I just like if you could maybe sprinkle that in a little
Okay.
bit, and then we'll
Let,
talk about it.
let's lay a couple of layers of backdrop. Sykes-Picot, World War One. The Middle East is divided between French areas and British areas. As a result of that, nations were created all over the Middle East. Iraq under British control, British mandate over Israel, the creation of Saudi Arabia, and the French were given control over the area that we call Syria and Lebanon, by the way. They turned Syria and Lebanon into nations. There was a French, Franco kind of French oriented government in the beginning, and at some point they were overthrown by the Ba'ath Party, and the Alawite minority in Syria took control. Very, how do you say, violent control over Syria. In the end, the Assad family, Hafiz Assad, and then his son actually have been ruling Syria as a dictatorship for many, many years. Syria fought in the war against Israel in 48 and 67 and 73. And in the last Balagan, okay, El Julani, who was a Al Qaeda supporter and element, uh, instigated an anti-Assad regime revolution after how long? 10 years of civil war.
Yeah.
and managed to overthrow the Assad regime, take control of Syria. He is Muslim Brotherhood, for lack of a better word, and he has actually overthrown the old regime, stepped into the new regime. Israel quickly ran around and took out as many of his military assets of Syria as they could. We destroyed the Syrian Air Force. We destroyed their long range missile capability. We destroyed a lot of things, but there was a Russian presence inside Syria. So we were very careful not to touch that. Now, El Julani is the president of Syria. Syria has a border with Israel on the Golan Heights. And I think that is the backdrop of what we want to go into right now.
Okay. Um, where are the flashpoints with Syria? Because I have a perspective on this. I think
Well,
the
let's
greatest point of contention with Syria right now is going to become what we call the security zone. I mean, I guess that's a different conversation, maybe even for a different day. But I would just feel amiss not talking about it because of how serious that is now in play because of what's happening in the Persian Gulf now. And I think you understand where I'm tracking with this. But I'm sorry, I cut you off. I just wanted to bring that up.
okay. Let's add on that the other side of Syria is Turkey, the Asia Minor, the whole peninsula of Turkey. Turkey sits on one side of Israel of Syria, and we and Jordan sit on the other side, which means Syria is strategically, geographically, the connector between Turkey and our part of the Middle East, and also between Iran, Iraq, and the Mediterranean. So Syria geographically has a huge point and has always been very outspoken against Israel. So when the Assad regime fell, on one hand, we were happy, but we now have a Muslim Brotherhood president with jihadi wackos who were, you know, how do you say, rose up in ISIS and in Al Qaeda, okay, sitting in Syria. And in this free for all, things kind of tend to set up shop. So the Turks are moving into Syria, want to increase their influence in Syria. Russia has a large Syrian presence, including a major naval base. Russia's only warm water naval port is in the northern part of Syria on the Mediterranean Sea, and a couple of airfields inside Syria. And Israel has always seen Syria as a threat, and now this threat is being played out. And that's what we saw this week.
Yeah. Okay. Um, Explain the involvement with Iraq, and then we'll go back and talk about what's happening with respect to the UAE. And then I want to go where I think the wagons are really circling. So let's talk about that for just a second.
One of the main things a lot of people don't understand about the Middle East is that the Middle East is not one flavor. And
Yeah,
even
boy.
countries, so even countries like Iran or Iraq or Syria, not everybody is the same in Syria. So again, we've talked about Lebanon many times that you've got Christians and Druze and Muslims, and Muslims come in different flavors. Okay, Iraq also has different flavors. We talk about Sunni and Shia. There are Sunni and Shia in Iraq. Okay, there
Right.
are Sunni and Shia in Saudi Arabia. So what happens is that when a country like a classic example would be Iraq. Okay, Saddam Hussein for years controlled Iraq, and he did it with power, and he managed to hold apart the sectorial rivalry and hatred between the Shia and the Muslims in Iraq. By the way, there's more. There's Yazidis, there's Kurds, there's Alawites, there's Druze. All of these are mixed in together in different minorities, and when there's a very strong central government, it holds those apart. When the United States came in and took out Saddam Hussein, one of the first things that happened is Iraq went into free fall or free for all, if you want to put it that way, and everybody started killing everybody. until a new power structure rises up. But that new power structure isn't as strong. So there are Iraqi Sunni organizations. Most of the Iraqis are Sunni, but there's Iraqi Shia minority that are fighting for Iran on the side of the Iranian side. And we saw missiles come out this week from the area under the Shia minority areas in Iraq that were fired at oil fields in Saudi Arabia or in the UAE. I think it was what they hit. They hit the UAE this week.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So people need to understand. So here's the thing: you've got this going on in Iraq, and just across the border there's Syria, that has both Shia and Sunni and elements, and so what's happening in Syria is that I've got a picture in my mind of, when a organism actually splits, the cells, some of the cells go this way, some of the cells go this way, as a result of this kind of metamorphosis going on. Syria has this congealing of different elements inside Syria in different ways right now. And it's, again, what we're seeing in this congealing kind of thing is Ashara or El Julani going to connect to the Sunni majority? Is he going to let the Shia minorities, or is he going to look for support from Turkey, who's looking for influence inside this part of the Middle East?
Yeah. The problem is you have a major juggling issue going on, because each of the leaders involved have different goals, they have different ideals, and then the other problem that you have to face, which becomes even more deeply consequential, is how you combat that in a situation where everything that gets done could completely change the direction that it all goes in. Everybody's acting individually, but depending on what you do individually can affect the whole corporate movement. A great example of this are some of the new alliances that are being made within the GCC. Okay? Mm-hmm. So this is the I think that what has to happen. Let me phrase this a little bit better, because the question that has to be asked, and I'm loaded with this one. Like, I have a lot to say about it. Okay,
let's go.
But we have to discuss the geopolitical implications of several things happening all at once. The MOU with Iran expiring, the recent dragging in of Iraq into the war, which is interesting considering the relationship that the President of the United States has with the Prime Minister of Iraq. The Russians holding a base now in Syria. The misaligned mindset of El Julani in Syria, and how it seems to cohesively work with Turkey's desires and them wanting to do something specifically with Erdogan. The trilateral security agreement that was just done between Pakistan and Turkey. I know I had to do it. Turkey and Saudi Arabia. And then the implications of the future Abraham Accords as it relates to what Saudi Arabia is saying on one side of the fence versus what they seem to be doing on the other side of the fence. Then you complicate it with what may be a very aggressive movement in the Persian Gulf to have to deal with the aggression of the IRGC in the current moment. That's a massive description of a lot of irons in the fire. And I'm telling you right now, it has to be understood correctly, contextually, because each of these developments completely, well, I'm not going to say completely, but in some cases changes the trajectory of things that we have things that we've understood to be normal for the last 50 years that are not normal anymore. They don't exist. They like, we've shattered them. We've shattered the idea. One of them relates to the United States' relationship strategically with Saudi Arabia. It seems to be challenged, and in that challenge, it would appear as though it is, and I don't know if that challenge is intentional, but it would appear as though it is driving Saudi Arabia into the arms of Israel. And it's just very some of it is becoming very interesting. Let me just simply say this, okay? I'm going to make this statement and then maybe you can respond to it, okay? None of these are isolated developments, okay?
No.
They point, in my opinion, they point to a rapid restructuring of the Middle East security order. The central question that has to be imposed is no longer simply whether Iran will be contained. The real question is who will control the regional system that emerges from this war. So if I were to create like a central thesis, okay, let me just simply say this and you tell me what you think. The American-led security system, whether or not it's Trump behind the helm, is becoming less dependable and slightly more fragmented. This is in the minds of the Middle East. This is not what may be actually happening. It's the Middle Eastern leaders. Iran is attempting to keep the war away from Iranian territory by operating through Iraq and Yemen and the Persian Gulf and using other pressure points. That's a given. Turkey is using Syria and the new trilateral defense agreement to position itself as a leader of an emerging security, a Sunni-led security bloc. Saudi Arabia is protecting itself through several competing relationships at once. Economic relationships, relationships with other countries. Russia has accepted, finally, it has conceded to a reduced position in Syria because maintaining even a limited Mediterranean foothold is better than being expelled entirely. And by the way, its position in Libya is not considered by them to be the most strategic of the Mediterranean footholds. The most important Mediterranean foothold for them
Syria
is, of course, the northeast Mediterranean. That's more important to them than the southern Mediterranean because of Egypt. And, of course, because of Cyprus. Now, here's the other part. Israel is acting aggressively, I think, right now to prevent Turkey, Russia, Iran, and possibly the new Syrian government from limiting Israel's military freedom of action. Now, the expiration of the MOU, this is where it's going to get crazy. The expiration of the MOU removes the diplomatic barrier. Okay? That MOU has now expired without producing any kind of durable peace agreement, which we knew was going to be the case. There's no nuclear settlement. Okay? There's no reliable opening of the Strait of Hormuz. So the President of the United States has now indicated he's not going to extend it, and the principal diplomatic mechanism that's restraining another major escalation has now been eliminated. So the practical implication is now every regional actor has to prepare for some level of coercion instead of negotiation. We're no longer in negotiation territory, and that's with everybody. Iran used the temporary pause to reposition itself, which I think was a terrible mistake. The United States is increasing economic and military pressure. Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Pakistan for that matter, Iraq, Oman, and the UAE are building contingency plans because none of them can assume another ceasefire is coming.
Not on a
So
ceasefire.
Iraq,
I mean, again, quickly. If you're Saudi Arabia, UAE, or any Gulf state, and you believe that you're good friends with the United States of America, and if Iran makes a balagan, then the United States will pound them into the ground. And look where we are right now.
Yeah.
You're going to say that was wrong.
It's 100% correct. I mean, what your observation is correct. It fits with the perception that exists amongst the leader. Iraq right now is now being turned into, this is my assertion, Iraq is now being turned into the battlefield that Iran has always wanted. And let me explain what I mean when I say this. The United States and Saudi Arabia, they've already conducted joint strikes against the Iranian-backed forces inside Iraq, following the attacks that were attributed to those militias. Those militias took responsibility. We attacked them. It's an extraordinary development because elements that exist of the popular mobilization forces are simultaneously tied to the Iraqi state and connected to Iran's IRGC. Now, that creates an impossible position for the Iraqi prime minister, the new one, okay? Because if you know anything about Ali al-Zaidi, he has developed a working relationship with President Trump. He's been used as an intermediary in some respects with Tehran. Most people don't know that, okay? But the problem is he cannot simply disarm Iran's Iraqi network without risking an armed conflict inside the country. He's trying to avoid civil war. And the important point here is this. Trump's relationship with al-Zaidi does not protect Iraq from American action. And al-Zaidi is aware of that. If militias operating from Iraqi territory attack American forces or any form of Saudi Arabian structure, Washington will treat Iraq as an operational theater regardless of what Baghdad wants. That's the problem. That's the problem with al-Zaidi.
Okay, so I want to superimpose what you just now did in Iraq to what's going on in Syria.
Yeah, but can I add this one detail?
Okay.
Because this is perhaps the most significant portion of this. And then I'll get into Russia later after you bring up your observation, okay? Because Russia is huge. But let me just simply end the thought by saying this. With American forces now scheduled, we know this, they are scheduled to complete their withdrawal from Iraq by September the 30th. Iraq could actually very soon lose both the restraining presence of the United States forces and Baghdad's ability to control the militias. That's scary.
Well, America is pulling out of the Middle East. America is pulling out. And everybody is scrambling to make new connections right now. And one of the things I need people to understand, when we say Iran or we say Iraq, when we say Iraq, there are a lot of different factions inside Iraq that have to interplay between themselves 100%. As much as anything else. Okay, so you've got the Shia militias in Iraq that are playing. But here's the thing. When they attack UAE or they attack Saudi Arabia and then they get hit back, the non-Shia government of Iraq actually sees that as a threat to their sovereignty. And again, and I want to superimpose that dynamic into Syria. All right. Syria is playing this game. We're sitting here and, President Trump, you want us to go into Lebanon to finish off the Hezbollah in northern Lebanon? What Israel doesn't want? Okay, tell us what you want. They're playing this free fall and they're playing this kind of, on the other hand, Russia, you can keep your base in Latakia. Okay, because we like the fact that there's a Russian base in Latakia. And whether you are good for us or not, you're making sure that this is another pivotal point. And more important than anything, okay, El Julani is saying, Turkey. Okay, come on down. Give us a little bit of because in our standing in the Middle East, a Turkish presence inside Syria gives him control. And one of the things that people don't really recognize, do you know all of the air attacks, all of the planes that flew from Israel to Iran during the last war went through Turkish and Iraqi airspace?
Oh, yeah.
Meaning.
Oh, yeah.
Meaning, excuse me, let me rephrase that. Through Syrian and Iraqi airspace.
Turkish as well. One of our flight. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Meaning a Turkish Air Force base in the middle of downtown Syria gives Turkey a button to push even on the dynamic between Israel and Iran.
Yes.
And that is what is in play here. Turkey is saying, I can control if you have the ability to attack Iran because I can control the airspace over Syria. Now, what happened in Syria this week? Israel took out that airbase. Israel
Yeah.
said, we don't want you, Turkey, to have a button or a way to control what we do in Syrian airspace.
Yep.
And that, whether Israel did not say he did it, but that is basically what is happening right now.
The
Syria
United States
saying,
is actually taking responsibility for Abu Duhar, believe it or
yeah,
not. As crazy as that sounds, and that actually becomes super important because let me just set aside what this means for Russia. Let me bring in the Syrian aspect since you actually put it very well. You hit a bullseye. It's a target, okay? El Julani's possession of Syria, what he's doing in Syria, fits the ambitions of Erdogan extremely well. Okay? Let's just think about this. This is what Erdogan wants out of Syria. And I should point this out because it's important, okay? He wants to do several things. He wants to prevent any autonomous Kurdish region on Turkey's southern border. He's been successful at doing it. He wants to have a Syrian government that will accept the Turkish military training, any equipment, air defenses, even permanent basing. He wants to do that, and he's well on his way to doing it. He wants Syria to facilitate the return of all of the Syrian refugees that came from Turkey. Because if he can do that effectively, he can eliminate the potential of the resurrection of a PKK type of organization. He wants Syria to give Turkish companies influence. This is an important one, by the way, over Syrian reconstruction, because if he can take possession of the responsibility of the reconstruction of Syria, he can become the big boy in the Middle East and have influence very similar to that of the United States of America. He also wants to, and we already know this goes without saying, Erdogan wants to place Ankara at the very center of the whole Sunni Islamic world, which puts him in direct conflict, by the way, with Saudi Arabia, which is why the trilateral agreement is so much more valuable than anybody thinks it is.
okay.
He also wants to challenge. Can I just say this? Because this is important. He also wants to challenge substantially Israel's freedom to operate through Syrian airspace, because Israel has found an opportunity to behave more freely in Syria because of the diminishment of the Russian position. So
Netanyahu, just add on, this came through just now. Netanyahu publicly said, we took out that base in Syria.
Beautiful. So then that complicates things. Because
that.
Okay, so that shows, let me just say this, that shows the genius of Netanyahu's political acumen. Because just, 3 hours ago, our central command took responsibility for the bombing of that base. So now what Netanyahu is saying is that we are working hand in hand with the United States of America to not only destroy targets in Iran, but we're working hand in hand with the United States of America to destroy any of Iranian proxies in any portion, anywhere in the Middle East. And by the way, that makes the Mecca Joint Defense Agreement way more important. Way more important. So I'm telling you, and by the way, we have to talk about Saudi Arabia and the Abraham Accord issue, the whole idea of them playing both sides of the fence. We also have to talk about what the IRGC is doing, because there is a very, very cohesive inclusion to draw from all of this. Okay? What we're watching right now, and this is I want to emphasize this. What we're watching right now is a contest over who will write the post-Iranian security architecture of the Middle East. Everybody has written off Iran now. Iran wants a region that's controlled through militias, through, the kind of pressure that we're seeing in the ocean, maritime pressure, strategic instability. Turkey wants a Sunni order. They want a caliphate in which Ankara becomes indispensable, and Saudi Arabia just simply wants protection. They want strategic independence. That's very obvious. And they want leadership without prematurely surrendering its leverage over Israel. That's a big problem. So Pakistan wants the economic support and a greater geopolitical relevance, especially in its position against India, because that problem hasn't truly been settled yet. And Russia wants to preserve access and influence even after losing because of Bashar al-Assad. Israel, on the other hand, wants to prevent any combination of these powers from restricting its military freedom and will go further if they have to in order to defend its position within the zones beyond that which they're calling security. The dangerous part
we call
is
them
that
second circle and third circle.
Amen. Second circle, third circle. I just didn't use that term because most people wouldn't understand the reference. The dangerous part here is that every one of these governments, okay, with the exception of Israel, you have to nuance Israel's view here. No, you could actually say it with it. You could bunch Israel up here. Every one of these governments believes the current instability gives them an opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's how a regional war expands. Not because everyone wants the same war, but because everybody believes that they can use the war to build a different Middle East. And that's why I say the wagons are circling. I mean,
so
this is crazy.
Israel just now indicated to Turkey, and according to everything that we're understanding, and actually, there were two, Air Force representatives on the Israeli news just a little while ago that said, we're telling Turkey, stay out of Syria. Don't hold back, or don't hold back our ability to act in Syria and through Syria in the rest of the Middle East. And basically, this is a Turkey-Israel conversation that is actually, by the way, the base was in Idlib. So the base is literally 70 kilometers. That'd be about 50 miles, 45 miles from the Turkish border in the north.
Oh yeah. No, that's them putting Turkey on notice. Look, the bombing of the Idlib base for sure, or the airport for sure is Israel putting Turkey on notice. The question here is, by Israel telling Turkey, we don't want you anywhere near Syria, which good luck letting that happen. The United States is actually supporting this, giving Turkey leverage in Syria. We know that based on the allowing of the establishment of the El Julani government.
Mm-hmm.
The question we have to ask now are, what are the potential issues that arise as a result of that stance by Israel? And we have to add the biblical narrative for what we know will happen in the future to be able to make the assessment as into what may happen.
Which is, okay, let me set it up for you, because, ladies and gentlemen, listen. You've got an Israeli, you've got an Arab, and we're talking about geopolitics in the Middle East.
I'm not an Arab, I'm an Egyptian, jerk, okay?
Yeah, okay, sorry,
Don't call me an Arab.
He speaks an Arabic-speaking Egyptian. But what I'm trying to say is
an
this.
Egyptian speaking Arabic, okay? Okay, sorry. I had to
What
just... He's rude. Everybody, I want you to know he's rude. He's doing this on purpose, by the way. Okay, go ahead.
What I want to remind you all, that the geopolitics, the military, the Trump administration, everything, it all zooms in to the biblical narrative. It all comes down to the Bible. And if you want any proof that this is being run by him who makes sure that everything is run according to his plan, I mean, just look how this is kind of lining up to the biblical narrative. I think it's fascinating that you can open up your Bible and talk geopolitics in the Middle East. And that is a sentence that somebody needs to write on the wall somewhere.
Yeah, and by the way, I want to make a correction here. I have to eat my words. I misread the statement made by Central Command regarding the Abu Duhair bombing. America's actually condemning it, believe it or not. That's just, oh my gosh. What in the world? I actually think I read it right. I just think they changed the report.
Could
What
be.
is happening?
All right. So again, America's pulling out, and everybody is rearranging themselves. Again, what are we calling this agreement between Turkey, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia? Is there a name for it?
They called it the Mecca Agreement. That's what they're naming it. The Mecca
So
Agreement because it was signed in Mecca.
so let's kind of illustrate something. By the way, you know that the agreement has already been broken. Saudi Arabia has
Oh
been
yeah, yeah,
attacked by
100%.
Iran.
Yeah, nobody's defended anybody. Yeah.
Nobody
Oh yeah.
nobody defended anybody. But here's the thing: you got Saudi Arabia with the money, you've got Pakistan with the nuclear capability, and you've got Turkey with the military technology. Okay, and that's the tie that is being made together.
Oh, 100%.
And and everyone brings something else to the whole story. And here's the thing: the United States thought that the Abrahamic Accords would be and do in the Middle East with Israel on the part of the arrangement, what this arrangement that they're trying to put together is going to do. And my question is to see in the next couple of weeks which one is going to fail first.
Okay, so what is going to fail first? What do you think is going to fail first?
Well, I know that the agreement between Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan is going to fall apart the minute any kind of pressure is put on it. That- and again, we're talking about Arabs, and we're talking about people who hate each other more than they hate us. I can't help but bring together the famous Golda Meir saying that the Arabs will have peace when they love their children more than they hate us. The Arabs love each other, hate each other's children more than they hate the Israelis. And here's a part of the problem. So it's all of this. Saudi Arabia is in a weird situation because what happened now with this war is that the main asset of Saudi Arabia, that's their oil, is going to get stuck in the Persian Gulf. And even if it doesn't get stuck in the Persian Gulf, and they put a pipeline from the oil fields to the Red Sea, their main source of income is threatenable by two ballistic missiles and a drone.
Yep.
And they're starting to realize that. They're starting to realize that there's no way that the only entity in the Middle East that literally defended itself against the Iranians is Israel. We're the only ones. And look at all of this is going on, and Israel's not being attacked. Because in the past, it was an asset for Iran to attack Israel and pull Israel in. Now it's not an asset. They're not getting anything. The Hezbollah is being very quiet. And again, I need to tell you the story about what's going on in El Tahrir bunkers in Lebanon. It's hilarious. Did you realize that the reason the Hezbollah is freaking out right now, and they fired a drone at Israel and wounded 3 soldiers, okay, and seriously wounded them, meaning without our medical system, the military medical system, which is the best in the world, okay, we would have lost 3 soldiers. They did that and even put the ceasefire on hold for a while because it turns out that there's more than 50 Hezbollah operatives that are stuck underground in a bunker system where we control the surface, but we cannot get to them underground. Here's the weird thing. It turns out that there are Iranian officers underground inside Lebanon, stuck under Israeli control.
I'm sorry. I just can't help but to laugh. I just I cannot help but to laugh. I probably shouldn't be laughing.
Yeah.
Okay, so then here's the question that we should probably share because there is a biblical issue here. Okay, and it's just really important. It's creating a biblical trajectory here. The
Yep.
Bible gives us a destination, and I look. I do not want to force every single current event, which a lot of people do, into a declaration of some kind of immediate fulfillment. But Ezekiel does tell us who the coalition is that will attack Israel and who the people are that won't. And if you look at Ezekiel 38, I think it's like the first 6 verses, you've got Iran, you've got 4 names that are given to identify Turkey, okay? You've got Russia, in essence. I mean, you've got Syria that's not specifically named. It's sort of, bye-bye. But part of Syria might actually include what's named for Turkey. You've got the presence of Russia, Turkey, Iran in the same wider theater. I don't think I know for a fact that does not mean Ezekiel 38 is happening right now. It clearly is not happening right now.
But
they still have serious disagreements, but it's the trajectory. And Saudi Arabia's future position, which is to, in essence, object, the Sheba and Dedan, and they're going to be objecting, it creates an interesting trajectory. I think Riyadh is going to develop relations with Israel. I think they're going to eventually refuse to fight alongside Israel because that's just the way they roll. I get that. But their current behavior already demonstrates the fact that they can cooperate with Israel.
Yeah, here's the thing. We already know that their arrangement with the United States is not going to cover them. And their arrangement with Pakistan and Turkey isn't going to cover them. The only ones that can be any kind of strategic asset for Saudi Arabia today in the Middle East is Israel.
But I will tell you, and this is not me being favorish, like looking at this favorably. This is not a bias. This is just me saying the way it is. Israel's stance here is the only one, in my opinion, that's strategically understandable. If they allow Turkey to construct bases or air defenses in Syria, that could eventually place a very powerful and ideologically hostile, very hostile military directly on Israel's northern gateway. If you think Hezbollah was a problem to this area where the finger is, imagine what happens when you have Turkey outside the security zone. And the problem is that Israel may not possess the political power to prevent it permanently. I mean, Washington right now is still supporting al-Julani's consolidation. Erdogan has way more leverage with the Trump administration than any of us want him to have. And every Israeli strike gives Turkey another justification to expand its role in the name of supporting operations in Syria.
You know what I'm worried about? Northern Cyprus.
Oh, 100%. Because if you're right. No, you're 100% right on this. You are 100% right on this. Because the position that Turkey has, in essence, in that northern strip of Cyprus can become a utilization for a very aggressive targeting mechanism that they approach. I think you're right. And here's another question that I have. What happens viably, bro? What happens viably with Greece if Turkey decides to go south a little bit?
Well, Greece will totally back Israel. I mean, again, Greece is afraid of Turkey much more than Israel is afraid of Turkey. So yeah,
yeah. I mean, 100%.
I mean, they've actually fought kinetic wars, Greece and Turkey, in the past. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting kind of dynamic.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, okay, if we didn't know what the outcome was eventually going to be, we'd have every reason to be freaking out right now, because this might be some of like the most crazy. Look, I will just say this about Bibi, and I know that saying stuff like this makes me widely unpopular, but Israel ought to thank the good Lord in heaven that Bibi is where he is. I mean, bro, you remember the story? Like when October the 7th happened, there were whole upper level commanders. Forget October 7th. Let's go back to the stories of 67 and 73. I think it was 73, we heard the story of like a bunch of higher level commanders, like in the cabinet, retreating to take like a day or two off to get like their head straight. Like we hear stories about that. Bibi doesn't move when October 7th happens. As a matter of fact, he turns up. The man gets cancer surgery. Is it cancer surgery? It's cancer surgery. No, a prostate surgery. And he still is fighting like literal hell. Israel ought to be thankful to God in heaven that Bibi Netanyahu is their prime minister right now.
Okay, you just now segued into the last thing that we'll be able to talk about here because I got to go.
I know we're taking time. We're ripping into your vacation here.
Well, but here's the thing: the elections are coming up, and the polls are not looking good for Bibi. I have to say, very, very interesting. We're seeing Eisenkot actually stepping in and taking on, and it's not going to be a pro Eisenkot. Nobody knows who the guy is. It's going to be an anti-BB, pro-BB kind of vote, and we're heading into that. And I'm starting to think what would happen if we get to a point where Bibi is not the prime minister.
Well, thank God we know how it ends, but in the immediate, Israel's in trouble.
And James, I'm going to be in Israel for the elections. So we're going to have a good time.
Yeah, Oh. So where do you think it's going to go, bro? Do you actually think he's going to prevail?
I think he's going to prevail. The question is what's going to be the cost? And he's going to have to give in to the Orthodox more than he has even now.
I think that would be hugely fatal for him as well if he does that.
He's got no choice. He's going to say this. He's going to say, "I don't want to, but I have no choice," which is basically true.
Yeah, I have tried. I still think the Arabs are going to be the rainmakers on this one.
I don't see a Benjamin Netanyahu government that is actually supported by the Arabs. The only thing that I see, I mean, that might be what would happen on the other side. I mean, Bennett has already sat with an Arab government, Arab-supported government. So remember the unity government that he did with Yair Lapid had the not part of the government, but as a part of the coalition that the Arabs were in that one. But I don't see that happening with the Likud.
Yeah. I think you're right. But what if he has to?
I don't know. I'm not there. In the meantime, by the way, they had the primaries in the Likud yesterday.
I didn't. You're right. I didn't even look to see what the results were.
Well, some of the more wacko. I mean, it's like an internal election, meaning Likud members have to go and vote for who they want in the party. Bibi very shrewdly has been pushing the Likud. I'm going to say bureaucracy into agreeing to let him. How do you say? Pre-position 8 people of his choosing, no matter what the elections. Meaning, he doesn't trust the Likud electing body to put the people he needs in place. And the name that came up, and you'll probably recognize this, is Avi Dichter. I don't know if you remember Avi Dichter.
No kidding.
Came out really, really low in this process, meaning he wouldn't even be a Knesset member, which means he has no way to have a title. And Bibi is now pressing to push Avi Dichter into one of those pre-arranged positions because he needs him much more than he needs, I don't know, Miri Regev, who is a wacko Israeli lady that drove everyone crazy. So, yeah, he's having a hard time inside the Likud world right now, too.
Oh, dude. Wow. I didn't even know that Bibi actually within the Likud primaries was bringing Avi up again. How do you think that affects his position within the Likud?
Well, Bibi is like, his position is his position. The thing is, Bibi needs the people that he needs underneath him. I mean,
Yeah,
Avi
because he
Dichter
doesn't
was a
want another Shin Bet deep state.
No, not only that, there's a couple of the crazies who came out of the Israel Aircraft Indices union representatives. Think about the union people becoming politicians, uh, and yeah, it was a lot of that. So what I'm trying to say, Avi Dichter was a part of his negotiating team on all the different levels. So yeah, we're going into a very interesting kind of state.
But what happens within the Likud, bro? Is he
Well,
going
I
to be
haven't
building
gone.
up another? Is he going to be building up another Bennett by doing that?
No, I think what he might pull off something. And again, this is if he pulls this off, he might pull off a unity government with Eisenkot, doing something like giving Eisenkot the Minister of Defense and him staying Prime Minister, and doing something like that. Then he wouldn't
But
need the Arabs, and he wouldn't need the Arabs, and he wouldn't need the Orthodox. Now,
but
more and more
okay,
Israelis are talking
but can I
about
ask
that.
you? But can I ask you a question? Do you think that he's doing it because he has intent to make him the Shin Bet director again?
Who, Eisenkot?
No, Avi. You brought up
Dichter?
Avi. Yeah,
No, Dichter, no. I don't think he wants him Shin Bet. I think he needs Dichter in negotiations. Dichter has been a major asset in all the negotiations with the Abrahamic Accords. He's way up in front of the Abrahamic Accords, and he's
but
way
he
up in
was a
front with
pretty
the.
shrewd. But he was a pretty shrewd leader of the
He
Shin Bet,
was.
wasn't he?
Yes, but he wasn't, how do you say, attractive for the Likud kind of majority people. And yeah, that's part of the dynamic that we're talking about.
So
But I
what's
want
the
to.
reasoning? Out of curiosity, I'm sorry, I'm just curious
He
because it's
wants
like
the.
what you're telling me is blowing my mind. Is the party pressuring like replacing Yoav Gallant's position? Is that the idea that it's a swap
No,
with where he was?
no, Yoav Gallant is out. I mean, he's on
No,
his.
I know, but like putting him in the spot where Gallant
No, no,
was.
well, no. Avi Dichter was a major asset for Bibi in his negotiations outside, but he didn't make, how do you say, the primaries. He didn't make the primaries. So Bibi is making a big issue to get him kind of put in the this is my list, okay, and move other people down. Meaning he's going to take a spot from somebody who got a higher place in the primaries, and that's creating a little bit of a balagan inside. But I want to go back to something else that I think is amazing, and I'm going to throw it in the air, and I don't know if and what, but I think this is the only way that BB could dance around the situation that we're talking about is by making a national unity government with Eisenkot, who is more right than Bennett or Lapid, okay, and find some kind of an arrangement that would allow him to create a government with a majority that would not need the religious or the Arabs.
Okay, so just for clarity, so if Avi survives this whole thing
Mhm.
because of what Bibi did, he's not. There's no way he's going to have. He's never going to be like an independent, powerful figure in the Likud. No, I'm not talking about Bibi. I'm talking about Avi. He's going to end up becoming more a security credential for Bibi. Correct? Is that the way I understand it?
No,
Help me figure
he
that
needs
out
to get
because
in. No,
I'm
no,
processing this right now.
he needs to get in the door. He needs to be a Knesset member. If he's not a Knesset member, Bibi can't do anything with him.
No. I understand that. I understand that. But
Which means the
his
minute he
role
gets
in
in
the
the door,
Knesset will
Bibi
be the
can make
security
him.
role.
Yeah, the minute he gets in the door, Bibi can make him head of the Shin Bet, head of this, or even send him as a negotiator somewhere. But if
Yeah.
he doesn't get in that door, Bibi cannot use him. So he did not make the cut in the all-out primary election, the internal Likud election. So Bibi is pulling all stops in order to make sure that he gets in no matter what.
Yeah, because I'm just processing this right now. Because if he loses him, if he doesn't have him there, then all of the Likud's policy that relates to, I'll just give you an example, the big ones, right? Turkey, Syria, Iran could falter.
Well,
Because Bibi's,
it would be handed over to somebody else.
yeah, that makes sense. I'm telling you, bro, Bibi is a brilliant political operative. My goodness, like like my brain is like poof right now. Like I mean, obviously you caught me on a side note. Most people are not going to understand the nuance that we're discussing right now. But my brain is breaking thinking about that. And maybe it's just because I'm not Israeli. You know, I mean, I consider myself to be relatively well-versed in Israeli politics.
You are very well-versed, by the way.
Yeah, but my brain is breaking on that one.
Here's Dean. He says Avi Biper is running for office in Israel now.
Oh, gosh.
Avi Biper?
He possesses permanent office, I think. Just like Agent Helicopter.
Helicopter.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Eliyahu. James, I gotta go
my brain is frozen right now, bro. Like I'm trying to figure like that one. You're a real piece of work right now because now I'm going to chase that rabbit trail down. I'm going to waste a bunch of my afternoon trying to figure that out.
Have fun. I got to waste
very
my afternoon
interesting.
on the beach down here.
All right. I love you, bro. It's been good. Let me do this really quickly. Let me do this. Let me read a couple of super chats, and then maybe we could take one question or two. Maybe you can scan the questions and tell me if there's any questions that you want to take. I'll let you take them and answer them because we have a lot of people that. Oh my goodness, Brad, I'm not even gonna read your first couple. They're funny, but thank you, bro. The Chinese comment especially is just absolutely funny. Brad says the Kentucky governor stated Mitch didn't update him on his recovery. Sources stated that that's because the governor refused to call Sister Cleo. Gosh, dude, you're going to get me removed. Brad is going to get me removed. That's just hilarious. Brad also says, excellent prophecy conference Thursday. Y'all rocked as always, and I love seeing y'all together. Just a suggestion for the next one, have Tom wear one of those Billy Chrome jackets. I think it's hilarious. Yeah. Those jackets are so cheesy.
You don't want one of those?
But he likes them. No, heck no. There's not enough material in the world to give me one of those anyway. And then go ahead and make our day, Scooby-Doo. Hi, Pastor James and David. Greetings from Hershey, Pennsylvania. Yeah, but man, I'm not a big fan of the whole.
Well, look at me in a Hawaiian church.
I mean, God bless Billy, but it works for Billy. Like it fits him. Like he doesn't wear it and go, oh, dude, you're weird.
Does it work for Tom?
It works for him. I think it works for Tom. It just would never work for me. Okay.
Right.
Any questions that you wanna take?
No, but somebody actually said something about Bibi will do whatever he needs in order to be elected. One of the things that we haven't talked about, and I need you to start thinking about this, is the connection between what's going on outside and what's going on inside the Israeli elections. Meaning, I believe that the Iranians are going to try to impact. I think one of the reasons Iran is being relatively quiet right now is because if they make Bibi do something in regards to Iran, it'll give him points in the elections. And they would rather not have Bibi as prime minister after the 27th of October. So I think they're hanging back right now among those, but maybe not. Maybe they will kind of. We know that there have been Iranian operatives in Israel trying to influence all kinds of things. And again, the worst thing that could happen for Eisenkot is that Iran shoots a couple of missiles into Israel the day before the elections. That means Bibi takes the elections for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think no matter what Iran does, if the Israeli public sees Iran as being interfering, then they're going to see that as a sign of strength for Bibi, and Bibi wins.
Yeah.
The best thing Iran can do to get Bibi away from being elected is by not getting involved in anything at all.
Definitely.
But they're not going to do that. Their understanding is too limited. They're not as sophisticated as a lot of people think. They don't understand Israeli politics as well as people think they do.
Well, they are making a lot of balagan for us.
Yeah, you ain't kidding. You ain't kidding. All right. Well, David, you want to close us in prayer?
Yeah. Yes, let's do this. Avinu Shabashamayim, just thank you for the beauty of Hawaii, and thank you for the waves I hear in the background, and the family running behind me here, and all of these blessings that you've given us. We want you to spread some of this blessing to the people in Israel. And Lord, I pray for the people in Gaza, and the people in Lebanon, and the people in Iraq, and the people in Iran, and the people in Saudi Arabia who are so far away from you, don't have the hope that we have. I pray for my people, the Jewish people, that they will see through the years of hatred and the years of evil that was done in your name, and realize who the true Messiah is, who the true sacrifice is. And we pray for the United States of America, that its leadership and its controlling factor will make the right decisions in this very critical period. Thank you for Pastor James. Thank you for everybody watching us here online and all over the world. Just thank you for this wonderful, wonderful world that we live in. And we pray this in the name of the greatest Jew who ever lived, died, and was resurrected, Yeshua Mashiach. Amen.
Amen. God bless you guys. Keep fighting the good fight. Look to the Lord. God is good. He's on the move.